What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. We've got a major developing story to break down today, one that's dialing up the tension in East Asia. On Sunday, November 16th, 4 armed Chinese Coast Guard vessels entered waters controlled by Japan, specifically around the Senkaku Islands. This isn't just a routine patrol. It's a significant move that comes at a really sensitive time. So, let's get into the details. According to the Japanese Coast Guard, these 4 Chinese ships were first spotted sailing around the Senkaku Islands on Saturday. Then, on Sunday morning at 5:29 a.m. UTC, they entered what Japan considers its territorial waters. They remained there for some time before eventually leaving. Now, from Japan's perspective, this is a clear intrusion, a violation of their sovereignty, but China sees it very, very differently. China's Coast Guard released a statement describing their actions as a rights enforcement patrol. They claim it was a lawful operation within their own territory. You see, China also claims sovereignty over these islands, which they call the Diaoyu Islands. This has been a source of friction for decades, but what makes this particular incident so significant is the timing. It's not happening in a vacuum. This event comes just days after a major diplomatic argument erupted between the two countries. The whole thing was sparked by comments made by Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takichi regarding Taiwan. While the specifics of her comments aren't detailed in the reports, any statement from a high-level Japanese official about Taiwan is guaranteed to draw a strong reaction from Beijing. China views Taiwan as a breakaway province and firmly opposes any suggestion of its independence or any official engagement with its government by other nations. Following the Prime Minister's remarks, China issued a travel warning, advising its citizens to avoid traveling to Japan. This is a classic diplomatic tool used to express displeasure and apply economic pressure. Think about it, cutting off the flow of tourists can have a real impact. So, you have this war of words, a travel advisory, and now armed ships sailing into disputed waters. It's a clear and deliberate escalation. What does this tell us? It shows that China is willing to use its increasingly powerful Coast Guard as a tool of these aren't Navy ships, which would be a much more aggressive military provocation. Instead, using Coast Guard vessels allows Beijing to assert its claims and test Japan's resolve in a more controlled, gray zone manner. It's a way of saying, we are here, we don't recognize your control, and we will continue to patrol these waters as if they are our own. For Japan, this is a serious challenge. They are now faced with the constant task of monitoring and responding to these patrols. The Japanese Coast Guard has to shadow the Chinese ships, issue warnings, and make sure things don't escalate into a direct confrontation. It's a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, played with armed vessels in one of the world's most critical maritime regions. This incident is part of a much larger pattern we've been seeing across the South and East China Seas. China is becoming more and more assertive in pushing its territorial claims, using its maritime forces to create a new status quo on the ground, or in this case, on the water. It puts countries like Japan, the Philippines, and Vietnam in a very difficult position. So, what should we be watching for next? Keep an eye on the diplomatic responses from both Tokyo and Beijing. Will there be official protests? Will ambassadors be summoned? Also, pay attention to the United States' reaction. The U.S. has a mutual defense treaty with Japan, and it recognizes Japanese administration of the Senkaku Islands. Any statement from Washington will be closely scrutinized by all parties involved. This is more than just a few ships sailing in the ocean. It's a physical manifestation of a deep-seated territorial dispute. fueled by nationalism and shifting power dynamics in the region. The risk of miscalculation is always present in these encounters, and a small incident could potentially spiral into a much larger crisis. It's a delicate situation that highlights the fragile security balance in East Asia. We'll be keeping a close eye on this story as it develops. Thanks for tuning in, and if you found this breakdown helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our future updates. See you next time.